Hi students, welcome back. This is Plus 2 Computer Application Chapter 4 Part 1 video. Before getting into the video, please do subscribe. Hope you have understood Chapter 3. So let's get into Chapter 4, and in this class you are going to learn about Introduction to Hypertext Preprocessor, that is PHP, server-side programming languages, and client-server architecture. So the first topic is Introduction to Hypertext Preprocessor, that is PHP. So look at this program. This is the way we write PHP program. So in this lesson you will be learning how to write a PHP program. And before getting into that, let's start with an introduction to Hypertext Preprocessor, that is PHP, and let's check why this web scripting language has become the most popular one. So internet and web-based online applications are performing very important role in business and entertainment industries. So all the business they started with a traditional method. For example, the customer goes to the market and they have to check for the variety of products and they have to select the stuff. After purchasing, they have to pay the specific amount. This is what the traditional method. And today's world is so busy and no customers are ready to do traditional shopping. So we expect home delivery nowadays. For that, all the business should use online applications so that the customer can do online shopping. And this web-based online applications are playing very important role, and it helps your business to be established worldwide. 2 decades back, a famous quote was said by Bill Gates, that is, if your business establishment is not on internet, that is online based, then your business will be out of business content. Yes, of course, it is true now. So let's see what is web-based internet application. For example, Amazon. So through that application, you can become a seller. All your products you can sell through that applications. Yes, it ensures the success of critical business in real world competition. So this type of web-based applications plays a very important role in our business. And let's see how this was introduced. So in early 1990s, British scientist Tim Berners-Lee introduced the concept of internet and World Wide Web, that is WWW. And the concept of internet and World Wide Web requires a new set of programming languages over the network communication. Yes, we are in need of developing web pages with new programming languages. And that is how new programming languages were developed. And recently they named as web scripting languages. So these languages are used to develop web pages and web-based applications. So I hope you have understood the concept of web-based internet applications. All these type of applications were used to develop their business. And as the technology develops, many programming languages were introduced. And you're going to learn the most popular one, that is PHP, Hypertext Preprocessor. So this hypertext preprocessor, that is PHP, is a server-side scripting language, and it was invented by Rasmus Ledov in 1994. So server-side scripting language means the entire program will be executed on web server. So let us see what does PHP scripting language. So PHP scripting language is very simple and light-weighted open source server-side scripting language. So as I told, server-side scripting language means the complete program will be executed on web server. So look at this picture. Actually, this is the web page. So you can design this web page using all these languages. So last year you have learned HTML and CSS. So HTML and CSS, they are called as client-side scripting languages, which means these two languages are going to be executed on the browser. Not on web server, it will be executed on browser itself. And this PHP code you can easily embed with HTML, CSS and JavaScript. CSS means cascading style sheet. So let us see various server-side programming languages. So here we do have PHP as the most popular one. and this scripting language can be executed via an interpreter. So interpreter means as we write the program, it will be executed. There is no need of converting the program into machine language. In the previous lesson, we have learned how to install XAMPP server. So that XAMPP server holds this web server Apache. So this Apache or most of the web servers supports PHP interpreter module. So it supports for PHP programming. So this is the overall idea about PHP scripting language. We are supposed to install this web server. Only then you can write a program and execute it. So the final output will be displayed in browser. It can be Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, any browser. So now let us learn about client server architecture. So client server, which means from client machine we used to give the request to the server and the server will verify it and it will respond back to client. So this flow of communication is actually called as client server architecture. So this client server architecture introduces an application sharing mechanism between two different hardware systems over the network. Two different way it shares the data. One is through internet, the other one is through intranet. So we do have difference here. Internet, which means connecting all the systems worldwide. Globally you can connect. And intranet means within an organization. So this is what intranet. So look at the client server architecture. We do have database server, network and client. So the server is a high performance hardware machine. It could run more than one application concurrently. And client, this is what client. The client is a separate hardware machine which is connected with the server through the network. So each client is connected to a network and then through the network it is connected to the server. So the communication between client and server will be taken place by two different actions. The client machine will send the request to the server. Server will send back the response to the client machine. So this is how the communication is taken place. So server is always called as service provider. It is going to provide the service, and client is the only machine used to send the request to the server. So this machine is actually called as service requester. So server is service provider and client is service requester. So client machine will send the request and server will send back the response. And this client server architecture is classified into three types. First one is single tier architecture, second one is two tier architecture, and the third one is three tier architecture, and it is also called as multi tier and n tier. Single tier architecture is also called as one tier architecture, and this is used for the server accessed by the client. Here the client application runs inside the server machine itself. The database is readily available on the client machine. Any request made by the client does not require a network connection to perform the action on the database. For example, if you want to listen to a song which is present in your computer using MP3 player, you can access the file. So the request from the client machine to the file server and the response from the file server to the client machine, if it is happening in a single layer, then it is actually called as single tier architecture or one tier architecture. So this acts as a single layer interaction. So the next one is two tier architecture. So this two tier architecture is used for the server accessed by the client at two layer interactions. So let's see what are the two layer interaction. First one is client layer, that is client tier, and the second layer is database layer, that is server layer. Database system is present at the server machine and DBMS application is present at the client machine, and they are connected through a reliable network. So in the previous lesson you have learnt about database management system and structured query language. So what for SQL is used? Yes, it is used to access database. So the client machine sends the request through query language statement to the server, and the server will respond for the query and it will send the result back to the client. So this is what the communication between client and server, and we have seen this in previous lesson itself. That is how to access the database, how to view the table, all that we have seen in the previous lesson. So here an application is acting as an interface between client and server, that is actually MySQL, that is my structured query language. Next one is three-tier architecture or multi-tier architecture. So this architecture is used for the server accessed by the client through more than one layer interaction. So in this multi-tier architecture, the programmer could decide the count of business logic layers, that is the layer between the client and the server. So here we do have three layers. One is client layer, then business logic layer, then server layer or database layer. That is why it is called as three-tier architecture. So here all the web applications or the websites, everything comes under three-tier architecture. And yes, of course, we need internet connection. We can assume any website or any web application as an example for three-tier architecture. So let's see one example, that is Facebook. Through client machine you are trying to open Facebook. So what we have to do, we have to set the username and password. Then when you press login, that is the request from the client machine, it goes to the application server first, and then it verifies the data whether the username and password are matching or not. That verification will be done in the database, and then it return back the response. That response will be returned back to the client so that you can see all the data on the screen. So these are the main concept. Single tier architecture has one layer, two tier architecture has two layer, and three tier or multi-tier architecture has three different layers. And the next one is web scripting languages. We do have two types of scripting languages. One is client side scripting and the other one is server side scripting. So last year you have learned HTML, that comes under client side scripting language. You are allowed to type the program using Notepad and you can execute the program using browser. So you can design your web pages or websites as you like using client side scripting language. And this year you are going to learn about server side scripting language. For this server side scripting language, we need supporting web server to be installed in the remote machine. And let's see about server side scripting language. So in this year you're going to learn about PHP, and the PHP code entirely executes on web server. So it should be installed in the remote machine. That is, we have learned how to install XAMPP server. In the previous lesson we have learned how to install XAMPP server, and that XAMPP server is going to help to execute this PHP code. So the web browser will send the request and the server will generate the HTML code and it will send back to the web browser so that the user can see the result. In this class you have learnt about web-based internet application and their important role in business, and client server architecture, and finally server side scripting language. So that's all for today. Thank you.